Welcome to a special episode of Engineering Tomorrow, where we're diving into Women in Construction Week. I'm Brian Gomsky, and though I'm usually your host, today we've got something special. Troy Gladstone of Midwest Machinery takes the helm, engaging with an inspiring guest, Catie VanWormer from Cleaver-Brooks. Catie brings a wealth of knowledge from the boiler industry and shares her journey as a woman in construction. This episode is not just a conversation, it's a celebration of diversity, innovation, and the strides women are taking in our field. So join us as we explore the challenges, triumphs, and insights from Catie's experience, shedding light on the evolving landscape of construction and engineering. Get ready for an enlightening discussion that promises to enrich your perspective on the industry. Without further ado, take it over, Troy.
Broadcasting around the world. This is Engineering Tomorrow, the podcast committed to bringing you the best in commercial construction, design, and engineering from the brightest minds in the industry. This is the stuff they don't teach you in school. So sit back, relax, and open your mind. You're about to get the insider knowledge to improve your next construction project or advance your career. This is Engineering Tomorrow.
Today, very excited to have another industry leader stepping in to do a podcast with us. And yes, in honor of Women in Construction Week, we have Catie VanWormer with Cleaver-Brooks. So thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you very much.
And we'll do our best to look like we do this for a living. Obviously, we don't. We're selling equipment and providing solutions. But anyway, so Catie, who are you? We know you work for Cleaver-Brooks, but tell us what you do at Cleaver-Brooks, and
Sure.
And maybe for those who aren't familiar with Cleaver-Brooks, what Cleaver-Brooks does.
Okay. My name is Catie VanWormer. I am the Director of Hydronics for Cleaver-Brooks, so I cover all of our condensing hot water boilers, work with our representatives and their customers on designing systems and coming up with equipment selections, as well as working on marketing and developing products for Cleaver-Brooks.
Okay.
Cleaver-Brooks, we are historically more of a steam company. We have been doing hydronics for close to 22 years now, but a lot of us know Cleaver-Brooks as steam. So I'm out promoting our hydronic products, hydronic solutions, and again, just working with all of our customers on coming up with proper equipment selections.
Yeah, many of us think of Cleaver-Brooks as the 800-pound gorilla in the big boiler world,
Yep.
and probably it's not as much of a household name in the smaller or commercial boiler
Yep.
world, and that's kind of what your role is, right?
Correct.
To really increase Cleaver-Brooks' strength in that marketplace.
Yep. Yeah, so Cleaver-Brooks, like you mentioned, is like the big blue bullet, we call it, in the
Yeah.
boiler room, those big Scotch Marine fire tube boilers. And that is really what we started doing in the 30s and 40s, but we've evolved as the market has evolved and offering more products and solutions. So that's something I'm tasked with, and with our representatives, is going out and really promoting our hydronic solutions as well.
Right, so kind of going from boilers that are the size of rooms or small buildings to boilers that actually can fit into closets and small
Exactly,
spaces.
yeah, yes.
What is the product range for the products that you're handling?
Sure. So the products I handle, again, are smaller capacity, so 500,000 to 12 million BTU.
Which really isn't small.
Not that small. Small for
Right.
Cleaver-Brooks, but not small depending on different manufacturers. But office buildings, schools, some healthcare facilities, hospitals, manufacturing processes on the larger side. So not really getting into like the residential side of things,
Right.
but definitely that schools, office buildings, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, our topic this week is women in construction, because this is National Women in Construction Week, and this is kind of personal for me because I have a 15-year-old daughter who maybe a funny. I think it's a funny story. She came home from school last year and declared that she was going to be a mechanical engineering. And her mom said, "Well, this is great. Troy, did you hear, Charlotte wants to be a mechanical engineer?" I was like, "Well, Charlotte, this is fantastic. That's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
That's I work with mechanical engineers all day long." And she wasn't excited to hear that.
Yeah.
So, the conversation was not as, wasn't as wonderful as I thought it would be. Anyway, a week later, she came back and announced that she wanted to go into aerospace engineering. So I pretty much killed her mechanical engineering.
You killed her mechanical engineering
career. Yeah, because Dad does it. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yep.
But anyway, my point is, she is a STEM girl. Today I'll embarrass her, but she'll never see this, but today she's on a bus going to Tulsa, Oklahoma for a robotics competition. So they've built a robot that goes across a predefined course and does a handful of tasks. And I think there's 30 or 40 other high school teams that they're competing with. I didn't even know this existed.
That's awesome. I never did stuff like that, so that's very cool.
Yeah. So there, in conjunction with what we're talking about now, there is so much more going on. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, she's one of 4 girls on a team of 40.
Okay.
But at least there's some girls on the team, and they're seeing it grow. So anyway, how did you get into this industry?
Yeah.
Start with that. How did you get to here, and give us a little bit of your story.
Sure. So kind of teeing on your dad-daughter story, my dad had been in the boiler industry for longer than I had been alive. He had been a Cleaver-Brooks rep since the early 80s, and I was in high school trying to decide what I wanted to do. Pretty good at math and science, so I decided to go into engineering. I didn't really know at that time what I wanted to be doing, but I knew I was good at math. Engineering opens a lot of doors.
Right.
I didn't know what type of engineering I wanted to do, so I started mechanical. I looked at biomedical, ended up going back to mechanical just because of the wide range of things that you could do with that,
Right.
including biomedical engineering, which was kind of interesting, like focusing more on that mechanical thing or aspect. So my dad's tie-in, I was looking for an internship in the mechanical engineering world, and I ended up working for a consulting engineer in Metro Detroit, and was a great place to start working. So I interned there for 2 summers, started working there full-time. They had a great intern program, great mentoring program. So I worked there for 7 years doing consulting engineering, and then I switched and actually went and worked for my dad doing boiler sales in the Metro Detroit area.
How long did that last?
About 5 years.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so I
pretty
was
good.
calling on engineers and contractors and end users, and decided that direct selling wasn't for me. There were aspects of it that I really liked, and I was able to take those aspects and work for Cleaver-Brooks directly,
Right.
and then got into product management and product development and kind of supporting our representatives, which is really what I've enjoyed doing for the last 7 years.
So you're kind of getting to do a little bit of several jobs that you used to do.
Exactly.
So you're helping design solutions, kind of your consulting engineering background, still selling product, figuring out the features and benefits and what does the market need, and so that's cool.
Yeah, so it kind of tied it all together, that consulting background. We do a lot of engineering lunch and learns and talking with engineers on designing systems and control strategies, and having that prior experience of working in an engineering office was really beneficial.
Yeah. So you probably go around doing tons of lunch and learns.
I do.
And what changes are you seeing in the demographics? I mean, this is women in construction.
Yep.
So go back 20 years ago to what you see today. How is that? Is it changing? And how would you describe it?
It's definitely changing, generally for the better. When I was doing my mechanical engineering program in college, very few women were doing engineering at that point, especially when you got into mechanical engineering was even less.
Well, how many girls?
Overall, I'm not sure. I always remember my senior design class was about 30 people, and I was the only woman in that out of 30 people at that time. Getting into kind of the real world, the working world, initially when I got into consulting, it was still the engineering side, mostly still men. You get into the field, contractors and things like that, definitely more men.
Right.
I've really seen a transition, I'll say, over the last 3 to 5 years, getting out kind of back in a normal travel routine after COVID. And there are a lot more women especially in the consulting engineer offices. Now, I have done some lunch and learns with, I'll say 5 to 10 people in the audience, and there are some where it is almost all women or all women, and I think that's fantastic.
Wow. Yeah, that's we haven't seen those engineering firms here, but I'm sure they exist.
Yeah, it is getting more prevalent, I think. Certainly once you get into the field, and then I work mostly with hydronic boilers now, but in the past I'd done more with steam systems.
Yeah.
That still generally just tends to be more male dominated, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's getting better. What do you love most about this industry? And you can answer that either just as a human walking around, I love this industry because of that, or if it's in context of being a woman in construction.
I'll do the women in construction part because I think that's a little bit more narrowed in on this topic.
Sure.
For me, seeing this industry, things that I really like about it from just a career perspective, either consulting or sales or what I'm doing now, kind of more manufacturer-focused sales, is almost every project and every building and every system is different. It's not, working for somebody designing a widget or a car part or a component of something where my perspective is that's usually pretty stagnant, like engineering, you're focused on a piece of something.
Right.
Maybe that's wrong, but that's how I see it. But when you get into buildings and things, everything is different. Every building is different. It has different challenges, or the ultimate, building occupying people want something different. So I think just the variety in what you're doing on a daily basis, from a system perspective and a design perspective, and then just my day-to-day is always something different. Logistics, marketing, engineering, makes it really interesting every day. Some days you come in and what you think you're going to do goes out the window within the first 5 minutes, and you're focused on something else. So,
well, in we go to schools, universities, trying to recruit, juniors and seniors into our field or to come work at Midwest or intern with us, and it's always tough because you have all of these kids. I'm probably not supposed to call them kids, but you have these kids that go to mechanical engineering school because they think they're going to design, the next Corvette or a rocket or airplane or something like that. And what so many of them don't know is that you might actually get a job at Ford or at Boeing and nothing against those types of jobs, but we've toured Boeing and did a shadowing thing with a group, and this engineer was so excited about this component that he had been designing for the last 3 years, and it was a small component of a wing flap of a jet. Whereas for him, that was super exciting.
Yeah.
For me, that would absolutely destroy me. So what people don't think about when they think of even engineering and construction, what I love is very much like what you said, is that it's always different. If you want that design job where you're behind a screen laying out a very complex system, those jobs are available. But for those who are more inclined to want to be in front of people, talk to a lot of people, or have just constantly different challenges thrown in their face, then it's a great field.
It is. Every day, some days you're in the office, you're out in the field, you're visiting manufacturers you rep, or going to different job sites, and so that variety really makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's why I try to tell my daughter, but she doesn't listen to Dad at all, so maybe this will help her.
Maybe she'll change back. You can never call me.
Let's hope. Yeah, obviously, let's try to do that. So, as a woman, what kind of obstacles have you faced, or what are some of the challenges that you're seeing?
Yeah, overall,
in construction?
It is a little bit, I'll say, overwhelming, or you get a little bit on your heels, especially when I was younger and just starting to go to construction meetings and things like that. Walking in, especially as a younger woman going into meetings, and you're the only woman as well. That could be a little bit overwhelming, trying to figure out when you should speak up, when you should interact, when you should interject. Some of that was really kind of challenging at first, is just how you fit in. As I've gotten more experience in meeting with different customers, I think the biggest thing that I've come across is just, you really, as a woman going in, I feel like I generally need to be better prepared than an equivalent man going into a similar situation. So I feel like I need to be ready to answer the next set of questions, have all of the answers available, be very well prepared, which could be seen as a negative. Like, that is an obstacle. You have to be, I feel like I need to be very well prepared and very qualified when I'm going into a meeting, but it's also forced me to learn a lot of the details of what I'm talking about, and I sell better and I work better on systems when I have a strong technical understanding of what I'm talking about. So it is an obstacle, but it's also, I think, made me stronger in a lot of the details of what I'm working on.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned when you were young, and because I can remember when I would go do lunch and learns as a 25-year-old or 27-year-old, I'd walk into the room and I'd see 60-year-old engineers in there and think to myself, all right, so I'm supposed to come in and teach these people that have been in the industry for 35 years.
Longer than I've been alive.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So yeah, there was that intimidation factor. And I can only imagine what it was like as a young woman walking into a room where there's not a single person that is, not to mention your age, but your sex, and it's like, I could imagine that'd be super. And I even felt as a young sales engineer that some of the old guys would test you. I can only imagine, that definitely happened.
Yeah, I don't mind being challenged as long as it's fair. I think it's kind of fun to get challenged, and it's one of the things I like about my job is traveling around to different regions and different engineering firms, and you do get people who will throw questions out at you, and sometimes it's like, you're just trying to see if I know what I'm talking about. And those are kind of fun to kind of navigate through those. But that's kind of the biggest obstacle I've noticed is just having to enter a room, a meeting, whatever, and kind of establish myself right away as an expert, especially if it's in an area where I'm not known, if I'm traveling somewhere outside of my local area or someone that I haven't worked with before.
So it's even, you're a licensed PE, so it's even beyond what your resume or the little biography that somebody might give. Even technically, there's a sense that you've got to be more prepared or over-prepared.
Correct. Yeah. Over-prepared a little bit with my education as well, with the PE license and things like that, but certainly on the technical, piping and controls and product information too.
Yeah. That was some of the challenges or obstacles that you might face. Do you find any advantages or, anything that gives you an edge that maybe other people wouldn't have?
Yeah, certainly. It's a good counter to the last question. On the engineering side of things, I think, and this, again, generalizations are kind of my perspective on this. From an engineering perspective, I think women are often pretty good at multitasking and being very detail-oriented, right? Doing a lot of things.
My wife would agree with you, 100%.
Okay, good. Probably your daughter, too.
Yes.
So I think that we tend to be very detail-oriented and also able to multitask, and if we're not working on multiple things at once, able to prioritize, have good lists, be organized. I think that's really helpful. It's helped me anyway. I'm always like the super organized one. I have like lists on top of lists always. From a sales perspective or going out and calling on people, different customers, I think being a woman, it's different. They've seen, no offense, men in checkered shirts and vests coming in. Not to call you out.
All right, this is the HVAC industrial
sales. It's like the uniform.
This is the uniform, yes.
Yep, okay.
Guilty.
So, they're used to that.
Can you edit the blushing out of this? All right.
So you're used to that, right? Like people are used to that. So you're walking in, woman's a little different, and offers some different perspective, different insight. So I think that's something, and I've had colleagues who are like, everyone's really always happy to see you and like welcoming and things like that. So I think it's a little bit easier to initially get in the door.
Right.
But you have to be able to back that up once you get in there and really establish yourself as an expert.
Right. And I wonder, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but so you've gotten in the door, you've proven yourself as an expert. I wonder if that also then leverages into maybe even a higher level or sense of trust or something, like you've totally earned your stripes. Yeah. Whereas maybe me walking in the door, they're going to assume I know what I'm talking about and really not even pay that much attention sometimes to what I have to say or what I'm doing. So I'm hoping that leverages into some more advantages down the line.
I think it's great. I mean, I've been a woman, obviously, in this industry for my whole career, so it's what I'm used to, and I think, there's certainly challenges and things that I feel like I need to be more prepared. It's also just what I've known for my whole career, so I'm kind of used to it and different dynamics, but honestly, everyone overall is super accepting and welcomes me in, and I get to work on a lot of cool systems and with a lot of different engineers and contractors on system design, installation challenges, things like that. So it's really great.
Cool. Yeah. Well, a little plug for Midwest Machinery Company. We are always hiring, and we would love to have more sales engineer candidates, more women sales engineer candidates. So if you're listening to this and listening to Catie, what should a young woman in high school or thinking about getting in this industry, what would you offer them as advice?
Sure. So when I went back up to high school, I honestly, I knew I wanted to go into engineering. I had done, AP calculus and some of the advanced math and science classes. I did not take a lot of, I'll say like engineering or CAD classes, things like that. So I kind of had to fill that gap in when I started doing internships. So that was a little bit of a challenge, or I think I had to kind of step my game up to get up to speed. I would say keep your options open, like doing a lot of math and science classes in high school, trying to get into some of those courses and understanding those classes in high school really help prepare you for college, and they made college a little bit of an easier transition. And just really try to figure out what's interesting to you. There are so many different engineering majors.
Right.
You can do, civil, environmental, chemical. And I was next to a woman flying out here that did chemical engineering, which is really cool. You don't meet a lot of chemical engineers, let alone women that do that. So we were talking about women in STEM just on the flight, which was really, really neat. So I think kind of exploring all of the different engineering majors and things that interest you, and how you can tie what your interests are maybe into an engineering degree, just because there are so many different things you can do.
Yeah. Are there resources for young women that are going into engineering and construction fields? I mean, I know there's a Women in Construction forum, but are there resources that maybe they can reach out to and that you know of? Or
not any that I'm really aware of. I was involved as an intern and then as a full-time engineer in the local ASHRAE chapters. They, I believe, have student chapters, like through the ASHRAE organizations. There are student opportunities there. There's Young Engineers of ASHRAE where they do like separate outings and networking. I'm not sure if like ASPE and other industry associations have something similar, but I think looking and networking in some of those industry associations, if nothing else, you could potentially do some part-time internships and gain experience, get an idea what the industry or the market looks like, and that can kind of help you decide.
Another thing I would encourage young people to do, whether they're in the industry or thinking about getting in the industry, you mentioned ASHRAE, which if you don't know, ASHRAE stands for the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, Air Conditioning Engineers. You grew up in this industry. I always thought my dad was saying ashtray. I always thought he was saying, I have an ashtray meeting tonight. Or
maybe more relevant when you were a kid.
Yeah.
People don't really have ashtrays.
When I was a kid? Is this so you made fun of my attire and not my age.
Yes.
But get involved in the local ASHRAE chapters. Like you said, there's young engineering chapters.
Student chapters.
And what I've noticed, even if you looked at LinkedIn postings and stuff like that, is the demographic of those groups is much more diverse than the demographic of what you might see at a golf tournament or something like that. So I think there's great networking and socializing opportunities for young people, especially young women, by getting involved in those groups. And I also see there's women groups forming in different cities. We serve, we're in St. Louis and Kansas City, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Denver. And in each of those groups, there are pockets of women's organizations that are getting together in construction, and that's really cool to see.
We have a similar thing in Wisconsin. There's some women construction groups. ABMA is starting a Women in the Boiler Industry group, WEBI. That they're just kind of launching. So I think there's a lot more focus on it, specific to boilers, but also just this industry in general is being more inclusive and having more women-focused groups and including women in things like golf or other events that maybe historically were more just male-oriented.
Right. And you said golf. We definitely need more women golfers, so always encourage that too. Anyway, so we've got you here. We can't, let you get out of here without plugging some stuff going on at Cleaver-Brooks. What's new? What are you guys working on? Anything to share?
Well, we just got out of the AHR show in Chicago. I mean, it was almost a month and a half ago at this point, I guess, but it seems like yesterday. So at the show, we were launching a couple products that I work on specifically. Our CFCE condensing hot water boiler, launching that with some great new updates. Also our dual fuel condensing boiler, the Switchfire product, kind of getting that out more in the market, updating some of our videos and things like that. And then on the more industrial side, our CBEX fire tube boiler. If you were in our booth at AHR, we had some great skid system. We had a display boiler. You could see the internals of the CFCE, and we had a fire tube boiler there too. So we had a ton of really cool equipment in the booth, which is nice to show off. But continuously working on a lot of new products, getting those to market, videos, all the fun kind of, I like the marketing side of things, so all the marketing stuff that goes along with that. And then also, it's hard to not mention decarbonization and that trend, you know, working a lot on that and kind of what's going on. It's very regional, sometimes down to the city level, so understanding what the requirements are, what the needs are, and then how to address that. So we have electric boilers, electrode boilers to handle that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's been fun, even if I'm the butt of some of the jokes, but no, it's fine. But thank you for joining us, and excited to hear what Cleaver-Brooks has coming around the corner, and that's it, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on Engineering Tomorrow. If you liked the show, please take a moment to subscribe on iTunes or Spotify. For even more great engineering or construction knowledge, visit engineeringtomorrow.blog.